Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Hello and welcome to a special coronavirus edition of My Hometown. I'm Bill Horan, along with my co-host, Nassau Community College student Corey Kaufman, coming to you live via Zoom and being socially distant as recommended. And today we're shining the spotlight on another nonprofit organization that's helping Long Islanders in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Today we're going to learn how the Long Island Community Foundation has come together to support fellow Long Islanders.
Let's learn about them today from Marie C. Smith, the Director of Donor Relations and Communication at the Long Island Community Foundation. Marie, welcome to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Marie, can you tell us what is the Long Island Community Foundation? Most of us don't know about that.
Okay, so we do call ourselves the best kept secret on Long Island.
Perfect.
We're a public charity. It's a grant-making foundation. We are dedicated to improving the lives of residents on Long Island. What we do is we bring together individuals, families, foundations, businesses, to build a better community and support nonprofits. So we actually help people with their philanthropy. And at the same time, give money out to nonprofits across Long Island.
Now, what would you say is that different from other nonprofits? Most of us aren't privy to that world. And
so although we are a public charity, we are a little different. So it actually, the model of a community foundation started back in 1914, believe it or not, in Cleveland, where there was a banker that said, we don't know how to give money away, but, we know how to invest it. So they created this model where there was the investment part, and then there was the giving the money away, philanthropy part. And that's basically how it started. And then 800 community foundations today exist all over 50 states. And most of them are very regional in their support. So there's like two parts of it. There's the unrestricted grant making that we get from money from donors that address the local issues. And then there's the investment part of it, where we actually manage charitable funds for donors, for whether they're families or individuals. They could be memorial funds, scholarship funds, and we build an endowment for those funds. So we invest the money. So we're part of the New York Community Trust, which is in the city, and it's about $3 billion in charitable assets. And we are an extension.
3 billion. You said
3 billion. 3 billion.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. So we're talking, we address the issues in the 5 boroughs. That's with the New York Community Trust. And then in the 70s, they said, you know what? The suburbs don't have the same problems as we have in the city. So they opened up the Westchester Community Foundation to address those needs in that community. And then later on, a couple of years later, started the Long Island Community Foundation. And that's where we are. So we help Nassau and Suffolk County. We have funds with donors that care about Long Island, and some of them don't no longer live here. However, they still have their philanthropy through us, and we help them. And most of them care a lot about Long Island, whether they're here or not.
On the website, you mentioned that the Long Island needs are often overlooked when compared to New York City. Can you tell us a little more about that and how you kind of get in there and fight for us?
Well, yeah. So what happens is, when people talk about New York State, the first thing they think about usually is New York City. And that's the 5 boroughs. And it's a very dense, population. But what's happening lately, and this is the past, 10, 20 years now, people are moving from the city and they come to Long Island. But the infrastructure on Long Island is not, it's not the same as the infrastructure in New York City. We don't have the transportation they have. We don't have the services that they have. So we're getting, an influx of people that are coming from the city into Long Island, but we can't sustain it. So, but the city still gets it. So they still have the money that comes in from, large foundations. Look at what happened last night. They had the Robin Hood telethon or whatever. And that raised millions of dollars. but it's all for New York City. And meanwhile, they had Long Island artists on there. We were like, what? So, what about our Long Island? So we do try to fight as much as possible to bring the money here to Long Island. So, that being said, COVID is one of them. So COVID happened, and just like Sandy, we were there for Superstorm Sandy when our region took a big hit, and we had a Building Back Stronger fund that was opened right after, immediately 5 days after, and we made sure that Long Island was in there with getting money, especially for the nonprofits.
Thank you. As Long Islanders, we appreciate that. I've been hogging all the time. Corey?
So could you tell us what is a donor advised fund? Like, how does it work, and what other types of funds do you have?
Okay, so a donor advised fund is one of the most popular parts of funds that we have. It really makes the donor in the driver's seat. So the donor actually recommends grants. They could make the fund whatever they want. It could be a memorial fund for someone that they loved and that passed away. We just had recently someone who had a mom die of COVID, and they started a fund with us. It could be a fund that they just care about certain issues. It could be breast cancer, it could be whatever, but they have the power or the suggestion, so to speak, that to make. And what they do is they just started. It's $5,000, really easy to start a donor advised fund. And they get a chance to make the gifts they want to make, and we do all the paperwork in the back. They get immediate tax deductions, and we help match charities if they want. Some of them already know where they want to go, and they know where they want to give to. We also just make sure that the charities they want to give to are financially responsible and with their governance as well, making sure there's no conflict of interest, and they're doing their mission the way they say they're going to be doing it. So it's that's the donor advice fund. It's the most popular fund, and the New York Community Trust, our parent organization, actually invented donor advised funds in 1931. And if you ask any investment firm like Vanguard and all those other charitable organizations that have donor advised funds, that is the most popular. There's other funds too. There's field of interest funds where somebody says, I just want to support seniors with disabilities, or I want to support just organizations that are in Massapequa. So those are field of interests. And those are, some of them are advised and some of them are not advised. They tell us, you know what, you guys know the issues, you could spend my money. Here's my fund, you take care of it. And that's what we do a lot with the unrestricted money. So we get proposals in from nonprofits on Long Island, and they have to abide by certain guidelines in certain areas that we are funding. And if they fit that criteria, we give that money from our donors to them. There's also scholarship funds. We have many scholarship funds. Those are a little higher in the minimum. But we do have one we have going on right now with Northwell Health. Their employees' dependents started a scholarship. So that's going on right now. It's a very popular scholarship. And Northwell Health is doing a great job, making sure their employees know that this is a benefit that they have for them to get a scholarship for their dependents. So, but we are managing that for them. And that's what, is a beauty about a community foundation, is that we can help manage the charitable giving for you. Whether you're a business or an individual, you don't have to be that foundation that handles all the paperwork and the board of directors and the IRS filings. We do that all for you. All you have to do is, give and know where you want to give.
Sounds easy enough.
It's very
I love that expression. All you have to do is give.
All you got to do is give.
Now, Marie, let me ask you, as you said, I would say your definition of being a secret is very much correct. How would someone know about you? Do you get people coming to you in businesses through their lawyers, the accountants, financial people?
Yeah, so our main pipeline are definitely our financial advisors. We consider them our ambassadors. They're usually trust and estates attorneys. People want to put a charity in their will. But again, you put a charity in your will, and it could be something like, Island Harvest, for example. Right now it's a very well-run organization, and Randy's, awesome. But she might not be there in 10 years. And when you put something in your will and name a charity, you don't know if it's going to be around. So what people have, what lawyers or trust and estates attorneys recommend is let us handle that part of it. So we make it flexible enough so that, we are able to monitor in the future what's going to happen. So you don't have to say, you can say, Island Harvest or, the like, or, food insecurity organizations, that kind of stuff. So, we make it easy for trust and estates attorneys to make it flexible enough so that they could abide by their clients' wishes, and we could abide by our donors' wishes at the same time.
That's a great point that you made, because what may be a well-run organization today and something we're interested in, maybe not as sharp 5 years from now, et cetera. And we have you as a group watching these organizations, and if we make it a little more general, we cover them.
That's correct.
Does someone have to be, we usually think of someone as wealthy to be opening a fund. Could this be a family who wants to leave the Johnson Family Scholarship, maybe an insurance policy? What might be relatively small to you, $25,000 or $50,000 to a fund?
Yeah, we have funds as little as $10,000 and as big as, $20 million. Why should all the billionaires have the fund? That's what I say. It's very easy. We've had, just a regular, when I say regular means middle to low income people that start funds, especially memorial funds, which are very near and dear to their heart. We had a woman who lost a child from a boating accident and started a memorial fund in her name. And that young girl had many people that loved her in the community, and they all came together and raised a lot of money. And when I say a lot of money for, someone of medium means, $50,000 could be a lot of money. But again, we are a vehicle. So instead of just giving a charitable, or opening up that checkbook, so to speak, and doing that checkbook philanthropy, you can have a fund for $5,000 and put money in there, get your immediate tax deduction. And when you're ready, give a grant to whatever organization you want to give to. So it's not, you don't have to do it right away. And that's also a beauty of a donor advised fund. It's a great placeholder, because you might not know, like if someone passes away, you inherited a lot of money and you want to get that tax deduction or whatever it may be, or somebody gives you money, you want to make a tax deduction and you get it, but you don't know where to give it to yet. That's easy. You could do it with us. Open up a donor advised fund, you get your tax deduction. Later on, you could give to whatever you want to give to.
Yeah, every little bit counts. Before I move on to my next question, I just want to let the people know you are listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Corey Kaufman, along with Bill Horan, and today we're talking with Mary C. Smith, the Director of Donor Relations and Communications at the Long Island Community Foundation, who is helping Long Islanders, especially in the wake of the coronavirus. So tell us about what you are doing for Long Island in regards to COVID-19, and what is the Long Island Philanthropic Response Fund?
Okay, so the coronavirus is impacting everyone across the country, and it's having a particular devastating effect on vulnerable populations. Long Island is a high percentage of low-income workers and others who are particularly at risk. So, by ways of percentages, New York State makes up 30% of COVID cases, and I would say Long Island makes up 23% of those. So we're really up there, and we're not far in terms of, proportionately how it's being affected for Long Island. So what we did, just like we did with Hurricane Sandy, immediately we established an aid fund, a fund that's going to help nonprofit service providers that are struggling with the effects of the coronavirus. And we're working with sector leaders to try to make sure that the gaps that are in funding, the gap meaning where they're not getting the money, is being, addressed. So we got together with some of our big partners. One, actor and director Billy Baldwin, who's from Massapequa. He's one of our donors. He's got 3 funds with us. We had B&B Bank, Claire Friedlander Family Foundation, the Green Tree Foundation, the Hagedorn Fund, New York State Health Foundation came in, the Roush Foundation. So many generous donors came in and said, hey, we want to help and we trust you guys. So here's our money. So, to date, we've raised about $1.4 million. We've given over $800,000 in grants so far. And we're still going. We started with an immediate need round, which was a lot of it had to do with food insecurities. That was the main thing that people needed. The food lines, the shelters, the food pantries, they were being overwhelmed with what they needed. So that was one of the first things that was needed. And as also too, you're looking at the PPE, the protective equipment, sanitizing and the masks. They went to hospitals, but they not necessarily went to those frontline workers of the nonprofits. So the nonprofits are being overwhelmed just as much as the hospital systems are. These are nonprofits that are grassroots. They're in their communities, and these are agencies or organizations that those community members trust. It could be a Spanish-speaking organization. It could be, a Haitian organization. You never know, the type of organization, but the people trust them more so than they would anybody else. And residential facilities, that was another part of what we gave out in the immediate first round of grants, telehealth grants for equipment. So that, these nursing homes and senior centers, they were very overwhelmed, as we know, especially with deaths were very high, and they couldn't go anywhere. So, we needed to make sure that they had the equipment, or at least help them with getting the equipment that they needed for telehealth.
Marie, what are some of the nonprofits that we would probably recognize that receive funding from you?
So I think, the Interfaith Nutrition Network, the IN, that was one of them. That was also food insecurity and equipment that they needed. Angela's House, that's a medically assisted place that helps, frail children and their families. And, they needed a team of 11 care managers performed site visits to family homes to check on their care that they needed, so that they received an $8,000 grant for laptops. We were one of the only, I would say, grant-making organizations that actually gave equipment. So we did a lot of equipment training and gifts to that. So Catholic Charities of Long Island, a big grant was given for equipment and supplies. That was also dealing with the chronically underserved, mental health. That's another issue that has been on the rise now, even after the immediate needs, the mental health places. Safe Center on Long Island, that provides assistance and empowers victims of family violence and sexual assault. They operate hotlines. They have emergency shelters. We helped support remote services, PPE equipment for them. An IT consultant they needed in order to do the remote services. A lot of these nonprofits don't work remotely, and they immediately had to set up that way in order to abide by the guidelines from the governor. So
I didn't even think of that, but of course that's a great point. At the time when they're most needed and their members most need them, they have to be able to adopt, whether they're comfortable with it or not. And thank God that you're around and helping them.
Yeah. I mean, it's scary to say, but these are very direct service providers. They're not used to this kind of work, and they had to really adjust very quickly.
Let me ask you, Marie, just before Corey comes in with another question. If someone is hearing this and says, gee, I don't want to start a grant, et cetera, but it sounds like you're doing really good work, do you take donations? I mean, just for your work, or will that bollocks up everything that you're doing?
Gosh, no. Yeah, no, we take donations. We have a general fund. Other than the COVID fund, but anybody could give to the COVID fund. It doesn't have to be somebody that knows us, already. Anybody could do that. And in fact, I would say about $300,000 of the 1.4 probably came from just people that just wanted to give. They got online, and we're not taking paper checks right now. So there's credit card donations they're doing wiring from their bank accounts, and people are coming in with money, and we're getting to know a lot of new people, which is great. We're trying to get the word out. We had a few ads that are out there that are trying to show what we're doing for Long Island. Long after that, we come out of this unpaused New York from the governor, these nonprofits are going to be still doing a lot of work, and they're going to have a lot of things to really catch up on and do even after this is done.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Corey?
Sure.
Before I move on to my next question, I just want to let the people know you are listening to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Corey Kaufman, along with Bill Horan, and today we're talking with Mary C. Smith, the Director of Donor Relations and Communications at the Long Island Community Foundation, who is helping Long Islanders, especially in the wake of the coronavirus. So you mentioned before that you've already provided $800,000 to grant recipients, people doing work in the community to help people who are suffering from this coronavirus. And could you just expand a little bit about what exactly that money is going towards? Is it going towards food? It's going towards food drives and providing wellness checks or something? What are the services that this money is going towards?
Yeah, so I just want to correct the amount, because I'm just looking now at the counter, and it's $986,500 so far has been done. So I would say that the majority, the first round of grants went out to food insecurity, and now we're dealing and technology, providing equipment for telehealth, especially like nursing homes and nonprofits that are helping with medical support, whether it be mental health or senior health, whatever it may be. But these nonprofits need the equipment that they have to, that they need to do their jobs, to support their mission. So that was some of the, immediate things that we did do, feeding programs. We had also given out the, PPE equipment and sanitizing equipment that these nonprofits needed, because again, a lot of what the state was giving and a lot of what donations were going out, they were going out to hospitals. But again, these nonprofits are on the front lines as well, and they needed that equipment. So they still do today. So that's where a lot of the money has gone. It's still happening now. We're dealing with a rise in mental health and domestic violence issues. So there's certain organizations like the Retreat. That's another organization that helps deal with mental health and domestic violence and women against women. So these are just this is stressors. These are triggers that come out in the community. I mean, it's just, if you just think about it, something like this COVID, mental health issues come out right away, and it's going to take a while.
Marie, how do you decide who gets a grant? I'm sure there's so many groups out there today that you could choose from. What is that process like? We have a lot to go through. I mean, we've gotten hundreds of proposals in from the nonprofits because they know who we are, and we usually do $2 million usually a year anyway in grants. We always look immediately at where we can do the greatest impact, where we can have the greatest impact with these nonprofits. So the proposal would really have to show us, who's being served. Are they marginalized populations? Are they vulnerable populations that need the money right away? And how broad is it? How important is it to our Long Island community? And that's it's hard because a lot of these nonprofits do amazing work, but it's competitive, and we have to be selective sometimes if we don't have enough money to give out.
We have to really make sure that it's based on how many people can get the most services, the greatest impact.
Now, if a nonprofit is hearing this right now and they say, oh my gosh, I could use, and they can fill in the amount, how do they go about applying? Is there a form? Do they just write you a letter? Or do they for a specific move?
Yeah, so you could go on our licf.org website, and you click on the slider that shows the COVID fund, and drill down, and it tells you how to apply. Right now, we're in the next phase of funding. So we've closed out the application until we redo it, because like I said, other issues are emerging. So we want to make sure that we are addressing any of those issues and the gaps that may exist. So there's a little research we have to do beforehand. But yeah, once it opens up, they could just keep checking the website and make sure, and then there's submission instructions. It's really a very simple application. We didn't make it very difficult for them.
By the way, you mentioned the website, and just again for our listeners who might be on either side, either a nonprofit or someone who would like to donate, whether it's a small amount or et cetera, could you give us that information, how people contact you, and please give it to us slowly?
Yes, it's you go to www.licf, that's the Long Island Community Foundation.org. And as soon as you come on the homepage, there's a slider screen for the COVID fund, and then you would just click on that.
That's easy enough. Corey?
Something I saw on your website, can the COVID-19 response fund be used to cover motel stays for the growing homeless population on Long Island? I get it. People can't really social distance, so they need places to stay.
No, so basically the fund is only going to nonprofits, so we can only support nonprofits. So if those nonprofits are doing that within their mission, that's something that they would have to, tell us in their proposal. And if it's something that you think that is, a need, a great need, that's going to serve the biggest impact, then yeah, absolutely. But all our grants, any grants, even through our donors, they only go to nonprofits, 501c3 organizations, tax status. So, and then they have to be vetted through us. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people trust us, because we really, we really investigate the charity, looking at their financials, making sure that they're abiding by their mission. I mean, we've had donors that come to us saying, I want to give to this Alzheimer's organization, and you're declining the grant. Well, maybe because, only a very small percentage, less than, 20% went to program support. They spent all this money on this beautiful brochure, but they're not doing what they said they're supposed to be doing. So we protect our donors about that. So anybody who gives, whether it's giving to this, COVID fund, or giving to a fund that, their friends set up with us, or they want to set up a fund, they know that, and most of them should know that we are a very trusted source, and we will make sure we're stewards of your money. We will make sure it goes to the right charities, good, approved, well-run charities.
Marie, we want to thank you, our guest, Marie C. Smith, the Director of Donor Relations and Communications at the Long Island Community Foundation, for educating us today, telling us so much about what you do and how we can take part. And on behalf of everybody at WHPC, we want to thank you for the great work you're doing, and please keep it up. I want our audience to know that I'm Bill Horan. I'm here with Corey Kaufman, and we want to thank you for listening to this week's edition of My Hometown.
We like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to whpc@ncc.edu. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.